A force in the universe has been driving us since the beginning of our time. The pull of a better future is a gift that can bring us everything we need and want. What evolves humans is the ability to pass on to the next generation skills and knowledge to make life better. It's in our DNA. Skills passed down from fathers to sons.
Well, my dad, he was a huge inspiration to me. From the beginning, he would give me a lot of Napoleon Hill's material, which set the foundation for the path I want to take in life. And I feel like kids my age, they need the exact same thing that I have. And I can give that to them. I can give them the knowledge that they need.
Mothers to daughters, families to children, grandparents to the generations that follow them. That driving force to improve was defined by one of Napoleon Hill's contemporaries, W. Clement Stone. Stone called the need for humans to improve divine discontent. Discontent has been the challenge for all humans since people lived in caves. At one time, the cave itself was an improvement. The desire to create a better life for those who follow began here. Our journey to improve continues, and the opportunities for exceptionalism are greater than any other time in history. Some things are not taught in school.
I was 19, and if you're sitting in this room saying I haven't read it yet, that's a mistake. That's an error in judgment. Think and Grow Rich is the all-time best business book in history. There's a million millionaires that said this was the book that changed everything in my business. This was the book, but I read it when I was 19 years old for the first time. Someone gave me a copy of Think and Grow Rich, and my life has never, ever been the same. What secrets have been handed down in the many teachings of Napoleon Hill over time to create a better life from generation to generation? Think and Grow Rich is just one of the many books authored by Napoleon Hill. There are hundreds of speeches, articles, and many books co-authored by Hill that reveal even more secrets. Secrets that have made many wealthy. The Napoleon Hill Foundation has archived hundreds of these materials. Some were revealed in Your Right to Be Rich Part 1 of the documentary about Andrew Carnegie and Napoleon Hill. In Part 2, this documentary includes the story of W. Clement Stone and others inspired by Napoleon Hill. In this episode, we'll answer the question, are the same secrets relevant today?
That concept that you create your life through your thoughts came to me at a very young age because of just my sports experience and reading Think and Grow Rich and other inspirational books. I read a lot of mindset books about wealth building, money, just that whole subject about creating your life through thought. This came to me at a very young age.
Skills change with new technologies, but principles remain the same. Many who made it to the top start young. One example is a young internet entrepreneur, Julian Jackson. Like most high school teenagers, Julian wanted a car. It became a definite chief aim and a burning desire. He decided he wanted a Ford Mustang. Julian recognized one market where the demand was high: name brand athletic shoes. He noticed that everyone at school wanted tennis shoes, so he took it on his own to answer that demand by finding an inexpensive supply. Julian created a mastermind alliance of people that could help him, and he developed a network of manufacturers to provide the shoes at a discount that he sold online. By the time of his senior year, he realized his goal. Julian Jackson drives to school in style. His success began when he learned from his parents the skills that are not taught in school.
Well, even from an early age, I've always wanted more. I always wanted more than what's prescribed in like the average life where you go to work, you wake up early, go to work, come home, go to sleep, do the same thing all over. Because when you think about it, you only have one life, and I don't want to spend my life working my entire life.
Taking the lead from Napoleon Hill's teachings, Julian is planning his next big adventure with a bigger chief aim: real estate.
Well, from the success of my shoe business, that's inspired me to look for bigger. Because I figured that if I can do great in this market, why not real estate? So, and plus, it's something that I love. I love working with people. I love helping people. And this is the perfect thing for me. Well, in real estate, it is very important to have connections. And that's all I'm looking for right now. I'm making sure I look at forums. I'm getting great advice from people. They're very helpful, giving me advice like what they did to start out and what I can do to start out at such a young age. And also, I go to real estate investing clubs, and that's also filled with great people and giving me lots of advice that I use right now.
Name brand athletic shoes to cars to investment properties. The skills handed down are being applied today by many successful young entrepreneurs worldwide. For Linda P. Jones, the story began on Mercer Island in the shadow of the Seattle skyline. It's not a bad place to call home. Among the mansions there are middle-class families as well. This was home for Linda as she grew up here as the youngest of 5 children. Seeing all that surrounded her, she began to wonder why some people were rich and others are not. She found her answers at a very young age. She was only 10.
The inspiration to pursue what I love for a living actually came from being a young child and sort of being involved in inspirational kind of books. I read Think and Grow Rich when I was 10 years old, and it taught me about the power of thought and the power that we have to create our life.
Linda went on to earn a business degree from University of Washington. Then she became a financial planner for over 25 years. Through strict adherence to principles taught by Napoleon Hill, Linda became a millionaire when she was just 38. Today she's known as America's Wealth Mentor, a best-selling author, founder and CEO of the Global Institute of Wealth for Women. She's dedicated her life to teaching others the principles of wealth. She's also been featured on many television programs.
So from a young age, I always felt like I could do what I wanted to do. And also from being an athlete, I was a competitive swimmer and team captain of my high school swim team, and very into competitive sports. And I knew the mental side of sports. So it was like having that mental power to understand our brain is so much more powerful than we acknowledge. Our thoughts are powerful. Our thoughts are things.
Another famous University of Washington graduate made his mark in a big way, with a big kick. Inspired by Napoleon Hill, Bruce Lee used one of the success principles taught by Hill to achieve success. Of course, he starred in The Green Hornet as Kato, and as an actor, his superhuman martial arts abilities made him a star. He won the hearts of a large audience. However, Bruce Lee was challenged because of a lack of opportunities in Hollywood for an actor who belongs to Asia. He believed in continuous learning taught by Napoleon Hill, so one night he sat down and he wrote, "My chief personal aim in life. I, Bruce Lee, will be the highest paid Asian superstar in the United States. In return, I will give the most exciting performances and render the best of quality in the capacity of an actor. Starting in 1970, I will achieve world fame, and from then onward till the end of 1980, I will have in my possession the sum of $10 million. Then I will live the way I please and achieve inner harmony and happiness." Asia is the source of another life changer for millions. Deep in an Asian rainforest, a small mushroom thrives. From generation to generation, this herb has been reported over several thousand years as having significant medicinal benefits. In ancient Asia, the mushroom called Ganoderma lucidum has been harvested and praised for its unique properties. Today it's paired with a gourmet organic coffee to produce Organo Gold. That discovery is the basis for one of the fastest growing companies worldwide. Organo Gold began in 2008 in Richmond, BC, Canada, in a small shop with only 3 employees. In just 2 short years, Organo Gold became the fastest growing network marketing company in the world. It's widely believed that nobody has sold more Ganoderma infused products than Organo Gold's co-founder, Shane Morand. His ability to motivate and develop leaders all over the world has been a blueprint for many of Organo Gold's top distributors and has helped the company expand into 6 continents. Shane's visions have been instrumental in helping Organo Gold become one of the most admired network marketing companies in the world. And it started with an idea from just one of Napoleon Hill's vast collection of works. Shane explained how they broke all sales records. According to Shane, we broke growth records. We built more millionaires than any other company in history in such a short period of time. We began with Napoleon Hill's philosophy. We teach it, we train it. It's our secret weapon.
In my opinion, the fastest way to develop your leadership is with a book that we have now published in 5 or 6 languages called Think and Grow Rich.
Organo Gold markets a healthier coffee, tea, hot chocolate, and mocha. Shane travels all over the world to teach and train people how to start their own independent business and to use coffee and Organo Gold as a vehicle to generate extra income for their families. He says, we put together the teaching systems. We put together the component of success, which is leadership development. And our primary tool for teaching leadership development is Napoleon Hill.
Every day, you got to get better. You've got to work on yourself much harder than you work on your job. Work on you. You become better. Don't blame the company.
The principles Andrew Carnegie shared with Napoleon Hill continue to influence people all over the world. It has been said that once the mind has been expanded by a new idea, it can never go back to its original shape. Andrew Carnegie's American rags to riches story has touched lives. Famous names across the American landscape are now international companies that have been inspired by the same principles that drove Carnegie and Hill. Chick-fil-A's founder, Truett Cathy, found his idea during the Depression. It was that time when he started to dream to be an owner of a restaurant. Every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. In another related story, it was in the early 1940s when a boy of just 12 years old got his first job at a restaurant in downtown Knoxville, Tennessee. Well, soon after, he lost his job in a dispute with his boss. Decades later, that same restaurant installed a large autographed poster photo of R. David Thomas just inside their entrance. Before Dave Thomas of Wendy's became a household name around the globe, he was a young cook in the Army. At that time, he read Think and Grow Rich. The seed of his great idea was planted. Celebrities, politicians, sports legends all credit their first inspirational break to the principles handed down from Carnegie to Hill, to Stone, and to others. Ken Norton, world heavyweight boxing champion, was given the book Think and Grow Rich, and he stated that that book changed his life. Ken Norton once said, in boxing and in all of life, no one should ever stop learning. These lessons have become the hallmark of American principles. The lessons learned built America, and they are the same lessons taught by W. Edwards Deming to Japan after World War II. Those same principles can be credited for the meteoric rise and success all across Asia. In the past, in Asia, it was generally thought that being brought up in the Asian manner means growing up humble. However, today Malaysia is a symbol of success. One of the most influential people in Malaysia today is Christina Chia. Christina is featured in the first chapter of the bestseller Think and Grow Rich, A Woman's Choice. Christina is the founder and chairperson of Napoleon Hill Associates in Malaysia and Singapore. She lives a lifestyle far better than would have ever been expected just a generation ago. Today, Christina is taking those same principles from Andrew Carnegie to play a significant role in the future continued success across Asia. In her many appearances as keynote speaker at convention, she has stated that all of us have greatness inside us. But in Malaysia, no one taught us how or told us the secret to doing it. It's not taught in school. She explained that she stumbled upon books written by Napoleon Hill exactly when she needed direction. With Hill's philosophy, she is quoted as saying, "I learned to take charge of my life." She continued to say that now she enjoys the ability and freedom to do what she likes to do. This is because I have internalized Hill's 17 success principles, and I am a better person than I was. Another success story is about W. Clement Stone. As a young man, Stone discovered Napoleon Hill's systems for becoming wealthy. Stone had already led a life of overcoming great odds to become successful. Chicago was much like the rest of America in 1900. The skyline we know today was only an idea. Everything we know started as an idea. Many of the things we now take for granted were not even dreamed of as yet. No internet. No television. Not even radio. Something was about to change. In 1900, the new 20th century was the dawn of an era of invention, prosperity, and wealth. Discontent was abundant on May 4th, 1902 in Chicago when W. Clement Stone was born. His father died in 1905 when W. Clement Stone was just 3 years old, so his mother found work as a dressmaker. Her long hours and hard work motivated the young Stone to go to work when he was only 6. His first job was selling newspapers.
I wanted to earn some money by selling newspapers because I didn't want to ask my mother for it. 2 teenagers were yelling out the news, and I stood beside them and yelled out what I thought they said as loudly as I could. And they immediately yelled, "Get the hell out of here!" And I refused. So they beat me up. I couldn't return the papers. I couldn't even read them, so I had to sell them. So I walked north on Cottage Grove. In those days, even though the neighborhood was very poor, Cottage Grove was a very busy thoroughfare. It had a streetcar line, and the stores were very prosperous. People from many parts of Chicago would come to some of these fine stores. But I started walking north and saw at Helly's Restaurant, Hoelle, a large number of people, and I walked in and sold a few papers, and Mr. Helly kindly pushed me out the door. I figured, well, that's better than being beaten up, so I go in again and sell some more papers, and Mr. Helly this time pushed me hard and fast out the door. And so when he was in back of the restaurant, I came back in and started to sell, and Mr. Helly started coming over, and one of the customers yelled out, "Helly, let him alone." So he did. So I sold out. Next day, I came back with twice as many papers.
When we develop the habit of cheerfully doing more than the minimum, we find that what we've given comes back to us multiplied.
Determination paid off. By the time Stone was 13, he owned his own newsstand. Years later, he discovered a secret to turn his hard work into millions. He read one of Napoleon Hill's best-selling books, and that motivated him to parlay $100 he'd saved into millions with a strong desire to succeed. And by putting together the principles from Napoleon Hill, he was the living example of the rags-to-riches protagonists in Horatio Alger's stories that he loved so much. Some are lucky to begin young, but it's never too late to become successful. Such is the case for a World War II ace fighter pilot. When Organo returned home to the States, his skills in the cockpit didn't translate very well to transition to a successful civilian life. And like he'd done for so many others, W. Clement Stone became an angel to Organo. Mandino was an alcoholic at the time, whom Stone took under his wing. Og Mandino told his story worldwide about a cold winter in Chicago. On a lonely night in freezing snow, his discontent led him to the only free place that was warm inside, the public library. That day, he chose a book in the library in Chicago instead of a gun in a pawn shop.
There are so many out there who might have reached the same position I did years ago when I came very close one morning at the age of 35 to buying a gun in a pawn shop that I saw in a pawn shop window and blowing my brains out. I had lost my family, my daughter, my wife, my home, my job, and I was a drunk. I was laying in gutters, Joe. I'm not ashamed to admit it now, because I figured the only way I could help anybody else is that they must understand where I'm coming from.
The book by Napoleon Hill led Og Mandino to a lifelong relationship with W. Clement Stone. Mandino became the publisher of Success magazine. That position led to the publishing of a bestseller based on the principles handed down.
We came up one article short, and I went home and stayed up all night, and I wrote a piece about Ben Hogan and how Ben came back from that terrible automobile accident he had when they told him he'd never walk again. Ben not only walked again, God love him, he won the National Open again. And I ran the piece in my magazine, my little magazine, Success Unlimited. And this is how, Joe, I'm convinced that God plays chess with all of us in our lives. He makes a move, and then he leans back and says, now it's your move, Joe. You can make it or not make it. In my case, that magazine came out with my article about Ben Hogan. It was the first article I had written for the magazine, although I'd been editing it for a year. I had too much to do just putting that baby together each month. And what happened is that a New York publisher got a toothache and went out to his dentist in Long Island, and he's sitting in the waiting room waiting to go in to be worked on, and he picks up off the coffee table in the waiting room my little magazine, Success Unlimited. And he's a golf nut, and he flipped through the magazine, found my article on Ben Hogan, read it, and when he got into his office that afternoon, he wrote me a letter, and I still have the letter, Joe, which says, you've got talent. If you ever decide to write a book, please get in touch with me. And about 2 years later, a tiny little book came out called The Greatest Salesman in the World. It is now past, well, we're getting close to 14 million copies, Joe, in 18 languages, and it just, they tell me it continues to sell in paperbacks at the rate of 100,000 copies a month, and that's 25 years. That's quite a record.
Shane Moran of Organo Gold said that at an event in Las Vegas, one of the participants told Shane he had created the success system that could never fail. Then the person asked Shane if he'd ever read the book, The Success System That Can Never Fail. Shane asked who wrote it, and the person explained W. Clement Stone. According to Shane, I had heard of W. Clement Stone, but it was just heard of in Success magazine. Shane explained that his plan was similar to W. Clement Stone's story.
W. Clement Stone. You might have heard the name. Some of you have never heard of W. Clement Stone. But let me tell you his story, because it freaked. When I heard the story, it's like, really? Is it true? And I researched, and it's true. This is a true story. His team went from 800 to 200. And he's walking down the street in Chicago in 1937, the year it was written, the year of the book, and things weren't going so well. Did he quit? No. He's walking down the street, and he looks into the window, and he sees Think and Grow Rich, the year that it was written. Wow, that's what I said. Really? And he stops in his tracks. He goes, Think and Grow Rich, and he opens up the book, and he starts reading a couple pages, and something started to resonate. Something started to resonate, just like it did for me. And he buys the book, and he goes home, and he reads it, and he reads it again, and he reads it again. And he goes back to his work, into his office. But what he did, because he had representatives that worked for the company, not independent. They were representatives that were getting paid commissions. And he said, it is mandatory for all my 200 sales representatives to read this book. And every day for 15 minutes, we're gonna read it together. Every day, 15 minutes. You wanna hear the punchline? Check it out. Are you ready for this? He took a company that went from 800 to 200. They started reading the book, Think and Grow Rich, over and over, and they started applying the principles. Read the book all you want, but you got to apply what you learn. You got to do it, not now. You got to apply the book. 3 years later, how many years? He took that small team of 200 representatives, and he became the first company in U.S. history of its kind to go to $1 billion in sales in 3 years. Hello?
W. Clement Stone once stated, regardless of what you are or what you have been, you can still become what you want to be. Lessons from Andrew Carnegie that inspired Napoleon Hill continued to drive W. Clement Stone throughout his life. Stone eventually teamed up with Napoleon Hill to co-write Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude. Stone, Hill, Mandino, and others were not the first to discover that universe holds special secrets to success. Special moments are coming to you. These moments are not ordinary. They are destiny-altering moments designed to thrust you years ahead. It was written several thousand years ago in Ecclesiastes that time and chance come together for every person. In our fast-changing world of the 21st century, news, online, radio, and television, there are just too many stories of people who are blaming parents for their own failures.
Well, my self-discipline comes from not letting distractions get to me. I make sure that I'm always focused on my end goal. There's a lot of distractions out here right now for me as a teenager, but I'm making sure that I don't let that get to me because I have to stay on the path to get what I want.
The truth is, as emphasized by Napoleon Hill, it doesn't matter what's happened to you in the past. You can still achieve what you want. Napoleon Hill taught throughout his volumes of work that we have to take responsibility for the experiences handed down to us. He recognized the need for tools and instructions to help others differentiate the difference between the good and the bad lessons of the past.
Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve, regardless of how many times you may have failed in the past or how lofty your aims and hopes may be.
Andrew Carnegie moved to the United States with nothing and went on to become the richest man in the world. He spent the first part of his life making a fortune, then the second half of his life giving it all away. His vision for a system that the average person could use to become wealthy is considered by many to be his greatest contribution.
I caught my first fleeting glimpse of the profound law which provides the means by which we may choose our own purpose in life and attain it, while I was being coached by Andrew Carnegie during the organization of the Science of Success philosophy.
You grow because of your gift to that other person.
Who better qualified than the richest man in the world to map out a legitimate and highly effective approach to building wealth? Andrew Carnegie recruited Napoleon Hill to take the important task to document these principles for generations to use. Napoleon Hill devoted more than 20 years to making sure that he had crafted a legitimate and tested system to building wealth.
And the best definition of success, which I know, is this. Success is the knowledge with which to get whatever you want from life without violating the rights of others and by helping others to acquire it.
This documentary has given you just a glimpse into the lives of only a fraction of the millions of people internationally that have used Hill's system to become successful. It is a system that any person can use to be effective today, just as it was when it was first published years ago. Almost every personal development speaker and author refers back to Napoleon Hill. Why? Because his system is simply the best. Carnegie believed almost everyone has what it takes to become wealthy, and that statement includes you. You too can become wealthy if you simply follow the right steps. Click the box below to get started on those steps. Please consider the Think and Grow Rich Discovery Guide, a gift from the richest man in the world. Are you ready for wealth? Then just click the link below.